Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
At least 25 people have been killed in northern Syria as Turkey ramps up its bombardment of Kurdish positions near the border city of Jarablus. This new front in the Syrian war growing ever bloody as Turkish forces advance into territory once held by so-called Islamic State. Syrian forces are still focusing their firepower on Aleppo. 16 people were killed in yesterday's barrel bomb attack on a funeral wake for children. A warning, there are some distressing images in Kamian Zerem's report.
A Turkish tank destroyed by Kurdish forces, both fighting for control of Syrian borderlands around Jarablus. In the smaller villages that dot these hilltops, another day of fighting left dozens more dead. Turkey is trying to stop Kurdish separatists from securing unbroken Syrian territory from far west to far east. But the Kurds provide a crucial northern barrier against IS. It casts the Kurds as both friend and foe. Turkey supporting the rebels of the Free Syria Army, who today displayed a weapons cache they'd seized in Jarablus. It was unclear whether from Kurdish or IS fighters. Complicated it is indeed, but some things require few words to explain. Images of children, too distressing to broadcast in full. The result of President Bashar al-Assad's barrel bombs and napalm, unleashed overnight on civilians in Homs.
This child was burnt by napalm, others suffocated. The area was hit by 12 airstrikes and we're using out-of-date medicine.
In Aleppo, different tactics, similar outcome. These ruptured buildings in Bab al-Nairab tell nothing of the detail. Here had been a wake for dead children, then a barrel bomb. Elsewhere in Aleppo, in Mardi, more of the awful same. After the first barrel bomb yesterday afternoon, the helicopters waited, then came back to drop more.
The helicopters dropped another barrel bomb which hit the ambulances and rescuers. They're targeting medical staff and rescuers, so they can't save anyone.
Will the proposed ceasefire ever materialize, with 250,000 people in Aleppo effectively under siege, low on food, medicine and water? Fierce fighting continues for control of the south of the city, as well as disputes over how and where to bring in aid. Some rebels apparently threatening to sabotage convoys if they arrive via Assad-held supply routes. But consider the lessons of Derea and ask, where does this end? The once rebel-held suburb of Damascus, forced after years of bombardment to surrender. Thousands of civilians removed this weekend to the anti-Assad heartland of Idlib. No one from the UN or Red Cross to monitor or oversee this mass movement of people into an uncontrolled unknown.
After 4 years of siege, shelling, bombing and barrel bombing pushed us to the limits, and we had no choice but to get out. It was the hardest moment I've ever tested. Living there was not like living any place ever. It's like you left your father or mother.
In the propaganda videos, the Free Syria Army claim to be uncowed. But how long can Syria tolerate this intractable war? Torn apart from within and without, showing few signs of resolution.
Well, with me now is Professor Fawaz Gerges, who's a Professor of International Relations at the London School of Economics and also the author of ISIS: A History. Welcome to the programme. First of all, we've got this situation now where it seems US-backed allies are fighting each other. How do we make sense of what's going on?
I mean, it really further complicates an already complicated and protracted Syrian civil war. So you have Turkey and you have the Syrian Kurdish rebels, who basically are both allies of the United States here, fighting each other. I think what we need to understand is that Turkey's military intervention, direct military intervention, even though Turkey says its primary goal is to really fight ISIS, the primary target of Turkey is basically, or are the Kurds. What Turkey wants to prevent the Kurds from really linking their areas in north and western Syria and establishing an autonomous region. Because Turkey fears that if the Kurds establish an autonomous region, this would have major implication on the insurgency inside Turkey. But what this tells you a great deal is that the complexity of the fight inside Syria itself.
So how is the US or even NATO supposed to respond to this?
Very difficult. I hope that the United States does not really sacrifice the Kurds on the altar of its basically strategic interest with Turkey. Turkey is a member, it has the second largest army in NATO after the United States. The reality is the Americans have made it very clear that they do not really want all-out confrontation. But how do you separate the two combatants? Here now you have Turkey, you have Iran, you have Saudi Arabia, you have Russia, you have the United States, are all involved in Syria. How do you resolve such a complicated situation? The blood, shedding continues inside Syria. This tells you, Fatima, how difficult it is to find a political solution to a 5.5 years of civil war that has taken the lives of more than 300,000 Syrians. You're talking about really 50% of the Syrian people are either refugees or basically internally displaced.
John Kerry is talking about progress being made in talks on Syria. In the meantime, we're seeing absolutely devastating pictures of children. Really, something has to happen now.
Well, everyone says, something has to happen. The reality is the international community has really let Syria down. This is really a dark stain on the conscience of the international community. Look at this irony. Turkey, for the last year, has been criticizing Russia for bombing the so-called moderate opposition as opposed to bombing ISIS. Look what Turkey is doing now. Most of the airstrikes by Turkey are targeting the Kurds rather than ISIS. In fact, when Turkey intervened along with other Syrian rebels against Jarablus was a major city controlled by ISIS. ISIS did not fire a single shot. It pulled out of the city, and now you have Turkey versus the Kurds. This tells you, and this is to come back to your critical question, the reason why ISIS has not been defeated, because the regional powers and the global powers, basically the rivalries between the regional powers really are preventing the focus on being on ISIS itself.
Incredibly complicated for us, Sturgis, but we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks very much.
I've been getting away with it all.